Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the August edition of Vicksburg Planning Commission meeting. The time is 7:01 and I will call this meeting to order. Secretary Cox, will you please take roll call attendance?
Chairman Schenkel.
Present.
John Paul. Here. Tom Bailey. Here. Chad Kissinger.
Here.
Seth Bishop.
Present.
Rachel Blankenhorn.
Here.
Nick Yashi.
Here.
Cox is here, and can't remember your
Jenner Weil.
the new
Jenner Weil. J.
On the agenda. All right, thank you. Next item on our list for tonight is the swearing in of our new member, Jenner. Welcome, Jenner.
Thank you.
All right. Are we ready? Well, raise your right hand. If you can repeat after me. I do solemnly swear
I do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of this state,
the Constitution of the state,
the ordinances of this village,
the ordinances of this village,
and that I will faithfully discharge
and that I will faithfully discharge
the duties of Planning Commission and Downtown Development Authority member
the duties of Planning Commission and Downtown Development Authority member
in and for the Village of Vicksburg,
in and for the Village of Vicksburg,
County of Kalamazoo,
County of Kalamazoo,
and State of Michigan,
and State of Michigan,
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability.
Welcome aboard. If you can sign your copy.
Welcome, Jenner. Our next item on our agenda for this evening is the approval of the agenda, and we do have one amendment.
Yeah, make a motion that we add voting for the board members, officers, as noted in the meeting minutes.
All right. We
Make it like
VA.
After citizen comments?
Right after approval of minutes.
Okay.
All right, we have a motion on the table. Do we have support for that motion?
Support from Blankenhorn?
Support from Plankenhorn. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Thank you. This time, we will open it up for citizen comments. Just as a quick reminder, citizens must state their full name and home address, and time is limited to 4 minutes. I will wait for about 10 seconds. Rob? Rob? All right. All right, thank you. And next item on our agenda for this evening is approval of the minutes from our July 8th meeting. Trust everyone's had time to review those. Any further conversation, please say so now. Otherwise, I will call for a motion to approve those minutes.
This is Member Blankenhorn. I make a motion to approve the minutes from the meeting on July 8th.
We have a motion from Member Plankenhorn. Do we have support for that motion?
Support from Member Riashi.
Support from Riashi. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Thank you. All right, I am going to try to get us through this voting as efficiently and concisely as possible. You have very official ballots in front of you, the pieces of paper that I passed out. Please, on the left side, in a vertical column, write the letters C, then VC, T, and then S. So you should have 4 rows, C, VC, T, and S.
I'll bring it back. Yeah.
All right.
This is what they just added.
So the C is for chair, VC is vice chair, T is for treasurer, S is for secretary. At the last meeting, there were members nominated, and there are no opposition to those members. And so this is simply a yes or no vote on each one of these folks. So as we go down this line, when I say the name, just put a Y or an N next to each one of those. Oh, that's a good point. Jim is recommending that I ask for additional nominations since maybe some of you were not here or even on the Planning Commission. So, why don't we start there? If there are any further nominations for secretary other than Bill Cox, please say so. Hearing no one jump forward, if there are any further nominations for treasurer other than Colin Bailey, please say so. If there are any further nominations for vice chair other than Zach Bishop, please say so. And any further nominations for chair other than Matt Schenkel, please say so. Okay, we will start with the voting. Again, secretary, Bill Cox, yes or no. Treasurer, Colin Bailey, yes or no. Vice Chair, Zach Bishop, yes or no. Matt Schenkel, Chair, yes or no. And when you are done with those, you can pass them down to myself. Doing expert analysis, tallying of these votes, and it was unanimous. The slate of officers has been approved for this next year. Thank you, everyone, for your vote of confidence, and we will continue on with our agenda. Planning Commission agenda item, we have Jim Mallory, Kyle Mucha, introductory presentation of rezoning with the village.
Yes, we'll turn it over to Kyle, and just wanted to update the board where we are. I think it's in the 22 different properties that we have identified to have proper zoning. The one thing that staff will do is make contact with all these parcel owners for their input, and then we will end up publishing these so that it would come for formal vote in October of this year, and then hopefully, to the best of our research, this cleans up the remaining parcels in the village that have just popped up over time. So with that, I'll go ahead and turn it over to Kyle.
Thank you, Mr. Mallory. As indicated in the past meetings, we've gone through a preliminary analysis and reviewed various parcels throughout the village that the existing use, such as a gas station, does not correlate to its current zoning district, which for this parcel would be a residential. Gas stations are not permitted in a residential district. So working
Kyle, we're just double checking if your mic is on. Okay. We got a thumbs up.
All right. So working through this listing, this is not a be-all, end-all listing. This is just what staff has and our team has been able to identify so far. We are reviewing this, providing addresses, parcel numbers, the existing use, classified to the extent we can. Instead of getting into it saying it's a barber shop or it's a fuel station or it's an ice cream parlor, we try to leave it more broad as a commercial, residential, industrial, so forth. Moving from there, we also identified under the 2024 future land use map that was recently adopted this year what the proposed zoning is, and then how that correlates to the existing zoning, and then any additional comments or concerns on that. As Mr. Mallory has indicated, our intent is to hold a public hearing in October after we've had some ample time to coordinate with property owners on this. It is our understanding this is a proactive, village-initiated rezoning. Again, I would request that, if you find any parcels on here when you're going through this, Mr. Henkel, please reach out to Mr. Mallory for any consideration. There's a few of us working on this, but we don't have the full, grasp or the details that maybe some of you drive every day compared to others. So this is what we've been able to find in our preliminary analysis, and we'll continue to refine that over the next few weeks. But that's where we stand as of now.
As the board will see, many of these are residential on Mill Street and other locations, and you'll see where it's R2 and conservation, and the recommendation is moving to R2. That conservation is a strip of those individual properties. They're owned privately, that was along the lake shore. But those of you that were on the board will remember in our research specific to apple knockers, we already have ordinances that would protect against accessory dwellings being placed on that property. So we felt it would be in the best interest from our viewpoint, even for the owners of those parcels, to have it strictly in R2 to clean that up. So, but be happy to answer any questions.
How do we have a parcel without an address?
It is a parcel number, but there was been no address assigned to it, so it could be vacant. It could be that the county or village over time, Mr. Schenkel, just has not assigned an address to it. There's multiple instances across the county where you have a parcel number, but because nothing's been developed on it or it's been split, no address was assigned to that at the time.
And it's owned by, that parcel is next, where's that parcel located at? I'm thinking the 402 East Highway parcel.
The second one down, Mr. Mallory?
Yeah, I know the second one down. Do you know where that?
East Highway is where it used to be Finks, 402.
Correct, but I mean, where it does say on address, do you know where that parcel is located in the village? I can't remember. We can get back to you.
Yeah, that one was just, it's east a little bit of some industrial districts that we have, but I don't know the street name. I'd have to look at that. For sure.
We'll report back.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be helpful. Are there any further questions or comments for staff on this list? Just as a reminder, looks like our vote will be scheduled for October 14th. Is that correct?
Yep, that would be, so we're requesting a public hearing, and we'll provide all noticing prior to that. So it'd be a public hearing in front of the Planning Commission, asking anyone who's interested to speak on behalf of those rezonings at that time. And from there, Planning Commission will make a recommendation to Village Council on that. So defer to Mr. Mallory maybe a little bit further on any of this.
I have another question. How will public hearings be noticed? I think I remember something about this conversation.
So we will notice each property owner directly with a mailer, and then everyone within 300 feet is also noticed.
Okay.
Now, the state act does permit that if there's 11 contiguous parcels, we do not have to notice each individual one, but our understanding with Mr. Mallory is that we'll still provide a notice to everyone. That way there is no miscommunication on that.
Yeah.
So we'll provide our 300-foot buffer maps that we have for other properties, and a lot of mail will be going out of here next month, but it will be, at least then everyone will have the ability to opinion on that or comment on that at the public hearing.
Good. Any more questions or comments for staff regarding this agenda item? Okay, we'll move on to the next one, which is a zoning text amendment recommendation.
We'll keep with Kyle on this.
So we have, because I'll touch on the, working with various residents and applicants over the past year. We've noticed some inconsistencies with such provisions of like nonconformities. We've noticed inconsistencies with the R2 setback requirement distances. We've noted some, we'll say, internal conflict when site plans are required and not. So working with Mr. Mallory and our legal team, we're going to go through and provide a few requests for, in essence, Mr. Schenkel, cleanup of these that we've noticed over the past year. I know we have a lot of positive development coming into the village. This will hopefully help be more efficient for us all, offer a better, clearer and understanding of what the requirements are, such as when site plans are required, when you can and cannot build regarding the nonconformity, hopefully reduce the setback requirements in a residential district where there's no homes that currently conform to it. So we're going through, we've made a list over the past year of modifications we'd like to make or at least note, and our intent is that this will hopefully help improve our efficiency and understanding of our zoning ordinance.
One of the examples I can give the board that fits many, if you think of the core downtown, the Washington, Kalamazoo, Michigan, Highway Street, the residential homes in that area, residential homes north of the middle school. We currently have zoning that requires a setback of 35 feet. Mm-hmm. While the majority of those houses, 35 feet get you to the middle of their house. And we're not sure why the ordinance was changed 30, 40 years ago that does not enable those homes to address some maintenance issues by our current ordinance. So an example would be on the text amendment to reduce the setbacks to possibly 20 feet, which gets you to the front of the house, and then in non-structured, like a small deck, let's say, that's not a covering, doesn't have walls, it's not going to be interior, might even reduce it down to 15 feet. But we've asked McKenna to analyze that and prep it to be back in front of the Planning Commission in the September meeting for a more detailed presentation and input from the Planning Commission, with ultimately placing it on the agenda with a staff approval or staff recommendation to approve at the October meeting. And again, it's just in the review of these zoning ordinance, we've handcuffed our residents who want to invest in these older properties and bring them up, and we want to correct that.
So these text amendments will apply to the code across the village then, right? So if it's, for example, if it's like a R2 residential, every R2 would have the same
Yes.
code changes to it.
Yes.
Do you foresee that being a challenge as it relates to something that's maybe not close to the downtown area?
No, it will benefit the owners of those parcels and not impact on the aesthetics of the neighborhood and that.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Any further questions for staff regarding that agenda item? Last one is parking analysis overview.
Thank you, Mr. Schenkel. So we've been working with Mr. Mallory and prior to that, Jackie as well a little bit to discuss the existing parking regulations within our village ordinance. Doing our in-depth analysis as outlined here in your 11-page memo, we broke it down section by section, made recommendations, found where there's inconsistencies, and then are also offering up suggestions for consideration at a later date after a public hearing for the Planning Commission. Our overall
Kyle, if I can let the
Yes, sir.
board members know, this section, and there will be emailed to you this week because there's no vote. We just kind of a more soft introductory to so.
So what we looked at is there's provisions for property owner responsibility. We're going into as well, Mr. Miller, I don't know if you want to scroll or anything for me, sir, but where motor vehicles can be parked and stored, property owner responsibility throughout there. Some recommendations to help indicate when parking may or may not apply to this, if it's existing use, if it's a new use, what triggers those might be. We're also looking at maximum parking. I know obviously space is very limited within the village, but our recommendation for like maximum parking would help to alleviate any concern of like acres of asphalt for a parking lot. So we're looking at provisions for that. Review procedures as well for when these provisions would be triggered. We would exempt single and two-family residential dwellings, so you're not going to have to come forward a site plan for a new single-family dwelling, or sites that are having 10 parking spaces or less required in that regard. Location, we've also looked at too as a consideration from the Planning Commission, moving down there, of where parking may or may not be permitted. Residential parking as well, asking that, recommending that, you can't park or store your vehicle and RV in your lawn. It needs to be on an approved surface. Storage and repair, again, not allowing inoperable vehicles to be stored outdoors in this regard. Bank parking, that is where a site can set up green space in the interim and the short term, and then as the site develops, maybe such as a manufacturing compound, they would then add further parking as they expanded their business. So instead of having to have them put in 50 or 80 spaces up front, like we've seen in other sites, they'd be able to do a reduced amount, showing on the site plan where parking would be expanded when they would get to those trigger provisions. When a building permit application is required for this, provisions of parking space, manner, location, a lot of these are already spelled out in our current ordinance. We're making recommendations on them, on how to modify them with, again, the intent to be more efficient, more lenient in some cases, and then clarify a lot of the provisions that don't seem to, that run counter to today's best practice as well. Moving through. There are some provisions as well that we talk about for surface and drainage. That way it's properly graded. The village engineer would be able to weigh in on if they're a good surface material or not. Will it handle the stormwater runoff? We don't want to see ponding or flooding in that regard. So this would add additional provisions for that. Lighting fixtures, if we're going to leave that in the parking regulations, or if we're recommending moving that to a lighting standard itself, keep it more in-house and intuitive of where they're going to be, how far away from property lines they may be, parking facilities in non-residential zones, off-street parking areas that make it necessary for vehicles to back up onto a road are prohibited currently. We want to maintain that. Loading and unloading spaces. Our ordinance right now states that they're required, but we don't have any provisions that states, really where or how large of a loading or unloading space is. 2 or more properties using the same parking facility. Do we have any provisions for that? We've made some recommendations as well. We also get into our current minimum parking required spaces. From here, we took our existing ordinance and then further what we hope is considered to be simplified. As Mr. Miller continues to scroll, you'll see that we now have modified them onto the next page there, sir, of showing a more intuitive use table, Mr. Schenkel, in that regard. Keep going, Mr. Mallory. So that's way residential uses, institutional uses, it's more, we hope to be clear and concise for developers and anyone interested in the village of knowing exactly what those spaces and requirements are. So we've created a nicer table, restructured it to make it more intuitive. Some of these as well, we've found that we've had no provisions for, so we're including some additional provisions for consideration that'll help village overall understand what is and is not required with parking. there. There's also some provisions from the Redevelopment Ready Communities of the Michigan Economic Development Corporation, MEDC. In order to become certified or engaged, they do have provisions that they recommend be incorporated into the zoning ordinance. In working with Mr. Mallory, we found that there are a few that we would be recommending for initial discussion with the Planning Commission to get us to that RRC certification status, such as including bicycle parking on new site developments. Another one would be, again, the bank parking, so allowing developers to set aside green space for future expansion of the parking lots and not having to do 80 spaces at once. Reduction or elimination of required parking when on-street is available in front of a building, and then also provisions for electrical vehicle charging stations. And so those are compatible with the RRC requirements, which the village is currently engaged with, so that is supported by that provision. And then earlier, Mr. Mallory showed, we did a community comparison as well of different townships and villages to offer you some idea of what other communities are doing. As we're kind of all aware, parking can be a, I don't want to say a hot topic, but a, we'll say interesting or invested topic by residents. So this is more provided as informational only up front. And then as Mr. Mallory indicated, we'll get into a further explanation as we go, but wanted to provide this with you. Mr. Mallory, anything else you'd like to add on that?
Just for a historical reference, been a couple years now that we did a presentation on parking in front of the Planning Commission Board. And basically, our parking ordinances go back, or requirements go back to the early 70s, and communities in today's times are looking to get to have ways that don't require the sea of asphalt that impacts the community arguably in a negative way in multiple areas, and including when you can have less of that asphalt and incorporate green space and collective catch basin areas that are natural and flower filled. So that's what we're looking for. And again, we will present it today to kind of get into everyone's thought process and to think about, and we'll have September. As we sit right now, I'm not sure, we might have one action item, but we'll have these 3 items that we dive deeper into, and we'll be soliciting your input and thoughts on. So we're looking forward to it. It's been a journey the last few years, and getting some of these things hopefully cleaned up and finalized will be good. So appreciate Kyle and McKenna with all of these.
Any questions for staff regarding this introductory presentation on parking? Jim, I have a question. What do you anticipate being kind of some of the immediate outcomes once this parking analysis change happens? Are there things that you're targeting as a village manager to kind of quote unquote clean up?
One of the, and it's, I guess the analogy I would use, it's kind of like seeing the picture of this puzzle, and we're putting these pieces of the puzzle together. We know that parking with the proper oversight in our ordinances, which would be less restrictive, and that's what is occurring, would incentivize developers in the future to invest in second floor living in our core downtown, which we believe fits the master plan that was just approved by the council. We've looked at the master plan, and you can see where we started working on this probably in January. We had a formal memo in April that came before the approval, so we're making sure that it matches the master plan's expectations. But that's one specific example. Other is joint use, which we've done in some of our developments of parking lots, as well as in our industrial, with practical application of what is going on in the industrial park. we did the text amendments, and now, again, there's the potential for the parking text amendments that will align and support future developments. There isn't any single development that's motivating any of these changes. It's just like once we got into this, kind of was an overall mission to McKenna, let's start clearing all this up so it's done and we can move forward. So
Great.
Mr. Schenkel, if I might add to Mr. Mallory's comments on there too, as we've gone through some site plan reviews, even the planning commission has gone through as well. If we look at this, a lot of uses are required to have a certain amount of parking spaces. That poses a significant challenge for us in our downtown area where you have multiple different uses, but we have finite parking areas as well. So this will hopefully help address some of those concerns as well, with instead of each use having to have X amount of spaces, this provides for greater, like Mr. Mallory said, flexibility as well. So
Great. Thank you. Thanks, Jim.
yeah.
All right, next item on our agenda is the status of the industrial lot in Leisure Park.
Yeah, we have one undeveloped lot remaining. It is owned by the LDFA board. So historically, back a few months ago, we reestablished the LDFA board. It had been kind of mothballed since, best we can tell, is the mid-90s. But both at the LDFA and the village council, they gave authorization to the village manager and village president to negotiate a potential purchase and development agreement. And I just wanted you to be aware, we have called for an LDFA meeting next Monday at 6:30 p.m. Where attorneys that we've utilized from Warner Norcross, Jared Belka, and Lance Orloff, who many of you have met, will be discussing those negotiations and presenting those purchase and development agreements to both the DFA and Village Council. And if we receive approval from those entities, then we would announce what that's to be that same day. So I wanted the Planning Commission to be aware that that's gone on. It's been a few months in the works, and we're looking forward to next Monday presenting. And being real estate, there'll be some closed sessions with those two groups with attorneys. So just wanted to let you know about that's going on, and will hopefully occur prior to us meeting again.
Thank you for that. We'll move on to the next part of our agenda, which is the DDA agenda. First item on this list is the Hideaway Grant reimbursement payment.
Yeah, this grant was approved. It's at an amount that the village manager can approve, so it's more informational purposes. We did receive all the paperwork. The work was for just east of the Hideaway. You've seen the new doors go into the building. So that disbursement will occur in this week's check run. So again, it was over a total of $11,000 invested with the DDA Public Benefit Grant Program, picking up $3,750 of that. And if anyone has any questions on that, be happy to answer. The next one will be an action item that we're presenting with staff recommendations. Amy and Randy Miller, originally their grant proposal was going to have a roof-like structure put over a cement pad. It was a kind of a two-phase approach. The roof-like structure simply will not work. So they have asked, they have it's about $14,000, I think, the concrete pad as well as landscaping. So it is still an investment north of $15,000. But I wanted the board to be aware and ask for a motion and support, and we are recommending approval that the grant amount stays at $7,500, but that it will go for the investment of this additional concrete pad and landscaping, and then they have already purchased a very high-end, incredible trailer that will, some might not know, but that building is a certified kitchen. It's been used as office space, but has a very deluxe kitchen in the back. So their plans to move forward to be able to serve food in conjunction where they're at is moving forward. So that I am looking for a motion and support. The grant dollar amount stays the same. It's just what they're investing their money in.
This is the title company building, right?
Correct, but they are going to the back, half of it will have food service. And it does have a registered county certified full kitchen in the back end.
Great. Any questions for staff regarding this agenda item? If not, I will call for a motion on this agenda item.
Trustee Kissinger, I make a motion to approve.
We have a motion from Kissinger to approve. Do we have support for that motion?
Member Riashi, support.
Support from Riashi. Any further discussion? Secretary Cox, will you please take a roll call vote?
John DeVault. Yes. Colin Bailey.
Yes.
Nick Riashi.
Yes.
Jenner Weil.
Yes.
Rachel Plankenhorn.
Yes.
Zach Bishop.
Yes.
Chairman Schenkel.
Yes.
Bill Cox is a yes. And Chad Kissinger.
Yes.
Thank you.
The next request also is, we received a request for an adjustment on the grant from the owners of the Rise and Dine, which was originally approved for $7,500 with the original estimate at the improved front facade at just over $15,000. The construction exposed some areas that weren't anticipated as extensive rot, broken foundation had to be approved. The final investment was in excess of $22,000. They have submitted an additional request for $3,600 or 50% of the total invoice, which would have DDA funds moving from $7,500 to $11,100.
Any discussion for staff regarding this agenda item? If not, I will call for a motion on this agenda item.
Member Bailey, recommend approving Rise and Dine's grant adjustment request.
We have a motion from Bailey. Do we have support for that motion?
This is Bishop, I support.
Support from Bishop. Any further discussion? Secretary Cox, please take a roll call vote.
Jenner Weil.
Yes.
Rachel Plankenhorn.
Yes.
Zach Bishop.
Yes.
Chad Kissinger.
Yes.
Chairman Schenkel.
Yes.
Bill Cox is a yes. Mr. Riashi.
Yes.
Colin Bailey.
Yes.
John DeVault.
Abstain.
Thank you. And second to last item.
Yes, this is, just wanted to update the Planning Commission and DDA board. Part of what was in our 24-25 fiscal year budget was to update the Downtown Development Authority plan. And we are going to publish a request for qualifications as well as a request for proposal. We're going to post it for a 30-day public bid process on Monday, September 9th, 2024. The RFPs will be due on Tuesday, October 8th. Our schedule then would be to present it to the Planning Commission Board on October 14th and the Village Council on October 21st. The October 14th meeting, the proposal to the PC Board will ask for support and your recommendation as a group to the Village Council. It is a fiscal matter that we're anticipating will be over $5,000, so the Village Council, it will go to them for final approval on the 21st. So you can get a little bit of a sense, October 14th could be a little bit busy meeting, but very positive as we update that DDA plan on the coattails of the master plan. Be happy to answer any questions. And then I did want to just highlight in this 54-page packet is the economic impact of events downtown, and specifically the summer events, both the long-standing car show, but the addition the past 2 years now on with the Bird Days occurring 9 Wednesdays. And I bring this from Encore, August of 24, an article, which this is in Southwest Michigan, so from the lake shore up through Kent County, through Battle Creek areas, talking about eventful impacts of communities and economics getting a boost. And part of the Vicksburg was highlighted specific to the Bird Days. Also working with some guidance with Discover Kalamazoo, other entities, and being able to pinpoint what is the economic impact on Bird Days. And it's our goal to be able to present to the council, certainly by year's end, with 2 years of data. And we know in looking at the data to date, the very first Bird Days in June of 2023 had about 2,800 devices in town. We know that the 49097 area code made up about 65% of those devices, and 35% coming outside of that area code. 3 Wednesdays ago, we scrubbed out the 49097 area code, and there were 4,800 devices outside of the 49097 area code on a Wednesday in Vicksburg from 5 p.m. for over a half hour during the hours between 5 p.m. and 10 p.m. We also know when we scrub back in the local zip code devices that the percentages had flipped. It was in excess of 65% outside of our area code and 35% from it. So I guess from a retired cop's viewpoint, it is, we believe, playing out like the book felt it would. We are targeting through marketing a 45-minute drive from Kalamazoo to come to Vicksburg on Wednesdays. And we are seeing those numbers increase coming from outside of Vicksburg, getting exposed to the community, as well as growing each week. And obviously, we're tracking when potential weather impacts, whether it's high heat or that type of situation. But right now, we are comfortable, I'm comfortable knowing that on Wednesday nights, and we're gonna sharpen the pencils and refine this, at minimum, we're looking at, and this is minimum, a $30,000 additional impact each Wednesday night of bird days. Predictably, when we really get into the science of this, it could be double that. So we're moving in the right direction, and it's an untold how to quantify the reputation of the village and our businesses as a whole from the people that come from outside 49097 with return visits and the positivity that they talk about Vicksburg. We knew it was getting attention in governmental circles and other communities by the contact. We have declined in excess of 80 requests of either vendors, musical acts, food trucks, that as all 9 events were already filled. A couple weeks ago, or it was 3 weeks ago, that we had state of Michigan come down, and if you were there that week, Hillary Duff's group out of her office, connected through the MEDC, came down and filmed going through, and we'll have a series of exposure for Vicksburg in a positive sense. So, and I'd conclude with, I say this, and we look at giving a more detailed presentation on this, as you'll see, and never in government is anything 100%. You know, I've talked to many people, and usually talk in the way 51%. It's a simple majority. It's a re-elected majority. 61% is a filibuster majority. 75% is clear and convincing. And I truly believe we are at the clear and convincing of our residents' support in what is going on downtown. We know that there will always be critics, and in this era of social media, they certainly can produce their criticism from a phone or a laptop, wherever they may sit or reside. But unfortunately, a lot of that information is just inaccurate. We've made a decision we're not going to respond to post comments or like on social media. I do want the Planning Commission to know I've had contacts with each store director at the family fair, and they are very positive and supportive of what's going on downtown. We're also want you to know that our DPW crew, those Wednesday nights or any event night, goes through their parking lot and then returns on Thursday morning to go through downtown. And if anyone's been in our downtown as of about 8 a.m. any Thursday, it's pretty hard to tell that there was an event with 5,000 people the night before. So I think when we really get into this, we're going to find through the events of the summer, the car show 2 days, if you Friday night and Saturday, and the 9 events, we're going to probably be north of $700,000 worth of local economic impact to do that. I say all that to invite everyone to our first ever growing up movie date night this Friday night downtown. And we're going to feature Ferris Bueller's Day Off in our social district. So we will be bringing in a large movie screen. bring your friends, bring a group of friends and significant others or first-time date, and enjoy the Berg on a Friday night, watching Ferris Bueller's Day Off. So we'll see how many people come, but that's basically my report.
Thank you, Jim. I remember what I was going to ask you. You had reported that the percentages have flipped. Do you think that those percentages have flipped because just the number of people coming is greater? Did I miss that, or is that kind of the conclusion?
No,
that
I
we're
think
taking
that's
away?
one significant data, probably the leading data point, that the capacity within Vicksburg is definitive, and so the growth of the events come from outside of Vicksburg.
Yeah.
And we have a couple stores that track credit card sales and that, and the return trips. Interesting, outside of Vicksburg, it's Matawan, South Portage, and then north on Sprinkle Road is where the majority of people are coming, and sitting in fourth place, so we hope they race to first as St. Joe County. And that's
Great. Well, I can say I've been to every one except for one, and it's felt more crowded this year, which is a good thing. We've enjoyed it. Food trucks are busy. Music is great. So thank you again for doing that.
Yeah, and we might as well highlight that they go the next 3 Wednesdays, so the 14th, 21st, and 28th, and to conclude this season. So looking forward to them.
Great. All right, we will move on to member comments. Do we have any comments from our planning commission members?
Member DeVault, I just want to thank this board for expanding the grant program in the DDA district. It's kind of hard for us small businesses to stay with the future of Vicksburg, what it's going. It's really nice that we were able to fulfill that obligation and fulfill that program. I'd like to give a little thank you to Restoration Concepts too. They accommodated our customer base very good during that 3-week in and out, in and out, in and out. So just wanted to say thanks for everybody on this board.
Your building looks great.
I will add.
I heard it earlier today called Deb's Building. I said I heard someone earlier tell me it's Deb's Building, but
At one time, we thought of it calling it Deb's Diner, but
I'll just add, say thank you to Colin Bailey, Zach Bishop, Mr. Cox. Thank you for coming on to the roles of the officers of the Planning Commission. Thank you for entrusting me for another year with your chair role. I will do my best to make you all proud. And with that, time is 7:54. I will call this meeting to conclusion. Thank you.